Hi, welcome to my studio. My name's Carrie Waltz, and I share tips, tools, and techniques for the artist in you. Last year on Black Friday, I bought 3 different types of watercolor sets, travel sets, and I got them out and evaluated. And I never did post those. And I pulled out the set this year. This one is the Zen Art Nomad watercolor travel system, and I decided to revisit it again. So this video is in 3 parts. First, it's my modifications to this set. It really is pretty nice in the fact that the only trouble I've had is getting it open. All right, of course, yeah, that's the part I'm videoing. Yeah, okay. It opens. It has its own brushes and what 24. Actually, I got 2 bonus colors. Don't know why, but I was happy with that. And it came with a key that you have to paint the key. And then I added the 2 bonus colors down below. So, but I showed you the modifications that I did in the first part of the video. And then I have 2 demos. One is of a leaf that I was just playing to play with it again. I've been working with Daniel Smith watercolors, and they're so intense and vibrant and more transparent. And I wanted to kind of see what it would be like to paint with these instead of the ones I've been painting with for about a year. And these are more like gouache to me. They're more opaque. But I also painted some doves, and these are just the leaf I talked through. The doves will have no words or explanations. But I think if you want to just see the process, I was using some of the dry paint from here and just lifting it off with a regular, I was using the brushes that came with this kit. So if you want to check out the demos, please do that. And I'm going to play with this some more because it really is convenient and it's set up so wonderfully well. I can hold it in one hand easy because it has a loop for your finger, and it's a good design. It's worth $40, I think, and it has everything you need. I don't normally use regular watercolor brushes when I'm traveling because I love the joy of not having to have a water container. But I hope you like the video. It's a little different having so many different things going on. I'll actually try to put a time stamp in there so you can go from one to the other. So have a wonderful week and happy creating. See you soon. Okay, I have to say I am very impressed with the colors on this, and I like the fact that the key is the same size as the palette, and I'm going to extend the key with an extra sheet of paper and put these colors that were bonus. I don't know what colors they are, but I'm going to glue those down and then tape all that together so it correlates with what's there. All right, I've also taken the time to go back with their key and look at the transparency and label it with an O for opaque, T for transparent, ST semi-transparent, etc. Because that to me is very helpful when I'm doing a variety of different things. So I'm going to connect this here so it'll fold under. And I also put on the back a note, all excellent light fastness, except these are very good. And then the abbreviations, I think I'd know them, but that way that's on the back if I ever forget. Now what did that mean? Or if somebody borrows it. I don't know what colors these are or how they rate, but I'm really liking the intensity. I felt like I didn't have to stay in the paint very long at all to get an intense color. So right now I'm a fan. And honestly, to me, I feel like I can tell an artist really organized this palette. Look, here's my yellows. Here's my oranges, orange tones. These are my reddish pinks. These are my more blues, leaning toward greens, leaning toward neutrals. I love the order of this palette. I don't think I would change a thing because purple in with the violet and the pinks and the rose makes so much sense. Then going into the blue, then to the green, then to the neutral. That's how I like to arrange my palette. So really can tell that an artist had a hand in this. So it's artist mother, co-founder of Zen Art Supplies. So, and then you have 20% off your next purchase. So, I'm liking it so far. Now I'm going to cover this with my clear duct tape, and I'm going to seal both sides so that if it gets wet, it won't be a problem. Okay, I put tape, 2 lines of tape going overlapping slightly in the middle, and then I'm just pressing along the edges to seal it. I did it on top of this plastic so it wouldn't stick to my table. Lining that up, sealing it really close, and then I'm just going to trim slightly out from the tape edge, and that'll give me a nice seal for my key. Okay, what I've decided to do is attach the key on the back. I taped it on both sides, then I lined it up with the colors on the inside so that it would line up correctly. All right, then I taped it down with the clear tape right here, and then I ran another piece of tape here, clipped it here so that there would be no sticky here and it wouldn't fall off, and it tucks under. However, I hear a lot of movement when I'm doing that, so what concerns me is some of these paints like this are not stuck, and if I don't put this piece back in, they might fall off. So I'm thinking of either wetting each piece of each of the paints. One thing I decided to do with this palette is take a little bit of Elmer's glue and secure these paints. I took my X-Acto knife and just lifted up the paints and put a tiny drop of glue in it. Look, yay. I don't think that'll hurt a thing because it'll take a long time, many paintings before I got down to the bottom. So just having that secure simplifies this. I don't think it's necessary to keep this piece. I'm not sure exactly, maybe just to keep it, the brushes from, I don't know. Anyway, I may or may not keep that, but if I lose it, it's not that big a deal because I don't have to keep these paints from falling out. To me, that was what that was for. I do love the fact that my key lines up with the paint. I have, whether it's opaque, transparent, semi-opaque, etc., and this slides up under here. This folds up like that. So it's still very compact, and I'm impressed with the vibrancy that I got on the colors. The only thing I've had trouble with so far is sometimes opening up the lid, and I got a quarter the first time to open it up. So in my general response to do I like this set? Very much. Love how it's arranged in its colors, from yellow to orange to the reds, pinks, then to the purples and blues and greens, and then neutrals. And that's how I prefer to always line up my palette. Here is the point of the the pencil that broke in transit, so I will sharpen that pencil and replace that. Today I'm going to do a little entry in my journal of another leaf I found in the yard, and it was a lot redder and brighter and more beautiful when I picked it up, but that was a day or two ago. And I often like to get leaves small enough that I can just kind of visually trace around and then do the cast shadow from a light that's hitting it. And this was a little too big for that, so I just made a light sketch. I'm also detouring from my water brush a little bit to test out this set of watercolors that I got last year on Black Friday. I haven't used them much. I was really impressed with the layout of colors and the intensity, but I hadn't used them. I'd put them away and been working with my own palettes that I love and are professional grade watercolor. And I just wanted to test this out again and see how I feel about this particular set. So I'm not doing my normal magnets holding my palette down. I'm going to do, this is a freezer sheet. I still like to do that to protect that. I'm going to pull this a little closer so hopefully you can see the colors that I mix. And I'm going to use the brushes that came with this kit. Look at them like this, and you can see it's a variety. Came with a pencil, 2 rounds, a flat, actually two flats, an angle, and kind of a fan brush. So I haven't played with this much, but I'm just gonna go for it and see how it does. I'm using a small bit of water in a yogurt cup for my water source. I'll get a paper towel. So this is more traditional watercolor, I guess, I would say, because it's not using a water brush. All right, so when I usually paint leaves, I paint one side at a time. It's easier to meld the colors that way. But I think I'm going to start off with the shadow. So shadow colors, I usually mix a blue and a dark brown. This has a raw umber and a Prussian blue, so I think that's what I'll try. Here's the Prussian blue and the raw umber. It's right here. I'm not sure what brown this is because it was a bonus color. I have no idea. So I'm just going to lay in the shadows to start with. It's fairly dark shadow, obviously. And, oopsie, I'm already getting lines. I'm not used to this. I'm filling it in. That's a little heavy, but that's all right. Too late now. Should have watered it down a little bit. See, didn't make enough to grab it and drag it on. See, this would have been a better consistency than that first one. And then I'm going to tilt it so that it leans toward the leaf. I'll lighten some of this up. Totally overworking this first part, so hopefully it won't look too bad when we're done. I really like to soften the edges, and I didn't do that because I didn't put any water on the page before I painted. It's really kind of awkward, but that's all right. The reason why I blurred that is because as the shadows get further away from the object, they often get more blurred. So see how that shadow's darker in the middle. Oh, gosh, I'm killing it. All right, hey, learn from my mistakes. Okay, don't worry about it. All right, now I'm going to start with the far side because that's wet. I'm going to wet the leaf. That's the underneath side of the leaf. I don't want that part wet. I'm going to wet on the side of the center vein. And I have to tilt my head to see what's wet. It's a little shiny. So what I do like is this has some nice greens already mixed. So I'm going to mix some of those together just a little bit. It's more yellow, yellow-green. So I'm going to lay that in where it should blend when I add the other colors. There's some orange. Our orange is already mixed, so I'm just going to pick some of that up and lay in kind of close to where that is. I didn't want to, I'm not going to do it exactly the way it is because it's all so different than when I picked it up. Okay, I'm going to pick up another color. I like this golden color. Some of that I'm going to put in there. Part of what I'm evaluating is how these seem to really fade when they dried. And I've been using professional grade watercolor, and considering this whole set was $40, I wouldn't think professional grade watercolor would be that inexpensive. It was designed and made by an artist, so I really, ooh, where did that come from? That's weird. No, it's a hair. Did you see that circle it made? It's cat fur. Oh my gosh. Well, ignore that. All right, while I'm playing, gotta hold, and just have to let that dry. And maybe it won't make too much of a line. I really should have continued on up the leaf while this was all nice and wet. But I do want to add some reds in there because that's the way it was when I picked it up. And it's kind of cool to see the imperfections of the leaf. Almost kind of looks bloody. Oh well, that's all right. It gets rather brown as we go up. So I'm just going to pick some yellow and mix in with that red. See how pale that green is right now. I'm going to come back. Probably should have made puddles first. I'm going to make this, ooh, that's really dark. Come back with some lighter tones. I just think in the fall it's so pretty when you can pick up leaves and they're just full of imperfections, and I still find the beauty in that. There'll be a lot of imperfections in this. It's okay. All right. I'm going to go pick up some more brown. Oops, that's black. That's the brown. Most watercolor traditionally is done when each layer is dry. You can see I am not very patient, and I'm laying in a lot of color as I'm going. A lot of the dark in that area is shadow, so I really don't want to put that in yet. Okay. Looks kind of weird because the shadow to the stem is way off from the stem, so I'm going to go ahead and paint this in so that makes it a little more sense. And we'll see how that goes. All right. I'm going to wet this side. You can see my brush is not totally clean. That won't really matter for this painting. Really should be a little more patient with myself. Can't see. Oops. Got the wet in the shadow. That probably won't be very smart. But, you know, I just wanted to paint a leaf. I love to paint leaves, and I've only painted a couple this fall. And I know I posted one not too long ago. You can go check it out. All right, so let's start this one darker. I want a variety of green in there, some darker tones, and when I add some red, then that'll help. But I'm kind of leaving the vein in the center open so it can kind of meld it together. All right, there was some red down here, the base. I want to get some brighter. Probably could spritz the watercolor so that it's a little more receptive to quick picking, to be able to be picked up with my brush quicker. This brush is okay. I love the fact it's short. See, now I don't like that hard edge, and the paper was supposed to be wet, so there really shouldn't have been a hard edge, so I'm going to re-wet that. There's some yellow up on this edge. Maybe not quite that yellow. Yeah, it is. It runs into brown. Put a little dots in through here. Some of it was even over here. And we'll pick up some of this brown. Now this paper is not flat. You can see it bowing as I'm painting. That's okay, just another little challenge. And I want the edge of this leaf to go all the way to the shadow. Again, see that hard edge that's forming? That means my paper was not very wet. And I want the colors to bleed into each other. That's what makes it so interesting. And that's what it does in nature, and I kind of wanted it to do that in my painting as well. It's a little dark green. I'll tone it down, hit it with a little bit of red. Red and green are opposite on the color wheel, so they tone each other down. Looking for little imperfections that I can just drop. I'm going to take some of the water out of my brush and make some other little drops. It had all these speckles in here. I think that's kind of interesting. I haven't even worried about the veins yet, as you can see. Go back up here. Ooh, that's really dark. Add some water. That's a little boring. Add a little green in there. I know it's all dried out and brown right now, but it used to be so pretty. And add a little bit more color to, just because I can. Okay, let's see what I want to do next. I really like how that's just kind of gone a bit nuts. I get a little brown. Well, needs to be wet enough. Put some more blemishes down in here. All right, up here, there's actually a shadow. The shadow's brown because it's laying on the brown leaf. And then there's before I paint that shadow, I'm going to paint this light back side of the leaf that's rippled and bending forward. Make that a little tiny sharper. All right, so now how do I want to do the veins? If I do a tiny little line kind of lifting up, you see how just a little water lifted up that? There's another hint of a vein right in here. It's just a damp brush. There's not any paint on it. A little further up. Sometimes I think using the subtractive method is easier than trying to lay in a tiny, tiny line. It's a suggestion. The veins don't come out evenly on either side. They're kind of, that one probably shouldn't have gone right there because it isn't symmetrical. And what I'm curious about is the lifting of this paint. Is it because it's more chalky like? Is that why it lifts so well, or would regular watercolor paint lift this well? I don't usually have this good a result when I'm barely touching, just lifting a little bit of the color out. It's probably too much, but that's all right. All right, now I'm going to get a little bit of blue and mix with my gray, and I'm going to create a shadow under here that's going to cross the center line, come under this point, and puddle. And hopefully it'll look like a shadow. Kind of like the color of the shadow down here. I want to make sure the shadow goes all the way up. See, there's all sorts of blooms, and where a bloom is where one part of the painting was drier than the other and the wet pushes into it. But because this is such a funky leaf, I don't mind that. Now, one thing I did not do is I did not paint in the highlights where the light hits it. So I'm going to, because this lifts up, so I'm going to just see if I can lift off some of the paint to create a sheen. Because you almost don't see that much light. I mean, the color's washed out where the light is reflecting. So I'm just laying it down, getting it a little wet, and lifting up. I don't know if that helps or not, but whoops. Really picked up some. I'm just dampening that. Lift it up. Okay, some of this area over here, this had a real hard edge, so I'm going to paint that edge. Put the paper towel down. That picked up a little bit. That shadow doesn't really look like a shadow. It's probably a little wet. And because my paper is not flat, it's not puddling the way it probably should. This side underneath is darker. So I'm going to come back and try to make that just a little dark, thicker. Part of this over here is also a shadow. Another thing that's throwing me with this is because I have painted so long with those other colors that these colors are new to me. So when you start with a new palette, you need to give yourself time to play with it. And I really didn't do that. All right, so the shadow here, again, watercolor should be transparent. And this seems to, instead of, I know that part was dry, but when I come back over, it seems to lift a little bit more than I would prefer it to. It's pretty dry, so I'm going to make that darker. What do you think? Is that a total mess? Funky leaf? Doesn't really look like that. This is a lot of red through here. Could be blue. I mean, it could be, really is green, but when I back away and look at it, I'm all right with it. I'm going to play with these a little bit more, but I tell you what, after working with professional grade watercolors that are more transparent, now some of these even say they're not transparent. You know, O's are opaque. Transparent is the T, semi-opaque. So some of this might be more like a gouache, and I might play with it more like that. But anyway, it was $40, and for $40, it's pretty good. Now, and I love the fact it came with the key. Now I had to paint the key. And for some reason, I had 2 extra colors that I added. I don't know what they are, but heck, anytime I get something bonus, I'm good with that. I did put a little bit of gouache right in this mixing area, so if I did need white, that I had that. So let me know what you think, and if you're going to try these or not. I'm still playing with them to decide.